All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Today, I'm super excited because we got somebody that everybody in the Farmers family knows really well. Big Mike is in the house. Thank you so much for being on today. How
Uh,
you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me, Dan.
Man, so I mean, everybody knows you. I mean, I think you're one of the most popular guys in Farmers. I mean, I don't know how. There's got that's a lot to say about your personality, but first of all, how many PC? How many times have you been a member of the PC?
Um, I think it's 9 in a row.
9 in a row, man.
Yeah, 9 in a row.
And when did you get started? I think we got started around the same time, but
I started June of 2008.
okay.
I think you were '07, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember we're always at those meetings at back in the day.
Do you remember when we first met?
I do. I think we met at Darla's district, was it? Or
No, it was at a Laker game.
oh, at the suite.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
I was like, oh, this guy is super cool. He's all into the game, and we were like
Listen,
around the
man,
same age.
you want to get to know me? Take me to a Laker game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Exactly.
Take me to a Laker game.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was a good time.
So nine PCs. Wow, that's incredible. And you know, one of the things that stands out to me is how many about life policies do you write a year?
You know what? It's varied, obviously. Um, I've written 100 life policies ever since I've started.
Wow.
Some years, it'll be like 101, you know.
Okay.
Other
Yeah.
years,
Still.
other
Yeah.
years, yeah, other years it'll be like 107. My best year was in 2011. We wrote 185 life policies.
Wow.
Last year we did 178.
Oh
We could
man.
have, I think we could have done even more, honestly, but so many people got declined.
Uh-huh.
um it was just a weird year, right? 2020 was just something else. um and I think the fact that we had such a crazy year had a lot to do with why we wrote so many policies in our agency.
Yeah. Man, talk about the consistency. So you literally wrote 100 life in your very first year?
Well, you know what, I don't look at it, I can't, because I started in June,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But
First
in
full
my
year.
my first 6 months I wrote like 72. I was like
Okay.
just on fire, yeah. And if I count my year technically, because I mean I know my everybody counts it January through December, but for me it's always been June to June.
Hmm.
So from June to June, I've never missed. But um, even from January through December, starting 2009, it's been over 100 life policies every year. Um, but I know you and I've talked about this. It really wasn't a thing at the beginning, writing those life policies. It was just like I came from an environment where life insurance was important, right? I started at State Farm. I was a producer at State Farm, and that's where I learned, you know, how important it is to even bring up life insurance. Because when I started, I didn't like life insurance, which is the most ironic and funny thing about it. I didn't like to talk about life insurance, but I was young, man. I was like 22, 23, and life insurance was just an uncomfortable conversation for me.
Yeah. For
Uh,
everybody.
yeah, and I didn't really know anybody that died, and I just felt awkward like talking about it. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of agents go through that,
For
especially like when
sure.
you start, right? Even when as you get older, life insurance isn't the easiest thing to talk about. I think for me though is when I saw my first claim and I saw the impact it made on this very like low income family, and losing the husband, and I just knew, man, that's going to be hard for this family. The wife, had a couple daughters.
Oh
The
man.
husband had passed away, and I remember being in the office when she showed up. It was like a Friday. Like I used to close the office. It was like Friday at 5:30, of course, right?
Hmm.
Shutting it down, ready to go out, and this lady comes in, and I was just like, man, to tell you that it shook me up is an understatement, right? So I remember literally telling my agent, like, hey man, I want to write some life insurance. I don't know what I need to do or what. The nice thing about the State Farm experience was that there was really good training. So they had like training just for team members. And I remember they had like all these life insurance experts literally explaining to us, how important life insurance is, and the obstacles that people face selling life insurance. And I felt like they were just talking to me. because I was like, dude, that is exactly what I am. Like, I'm intimidated by the products. I don't think I know enough about the products. Until I realized, life insurance has nothing to do with the products. It really has to do with your connection with people, seeing a need in a family, being a professional, and if I'm knowledgeable, right, I'm the expert here. I'm the one that talks about it and goes to school and has a license. I felt like it became like a responsibility, almost like a priority, to at least bring it up. I wasn't knocking out 100 life policies like that as a producer, but I was doing a lot. I was probably doing 50, 60 maybe, from
Oh,
what I can remember, you know and that was a lot. But you know what, to be honest with you, and there's the person I used to work with is a farmer's agent now. Not the old agent, but
coworker.
my coworker, right?
Oh, okay.
And she was really good at it too. So for like, my agent was all about it. She was really good at it. At some point, it felt like, dude, I got to catch up, like, and once I got the hang of it, when you have that kind of culture within an office, it just becomes like second nature.
Right.
So I got to say that, since that was already instilled in me, I had the confidence.
Hmm.
That's a big deal, I think, with life insurance, is being confident, so that when people start asking you questions or their concerns, you don't answer thinking about it. It just comes out seamlessly,
Right.
right?
And then when you're in an environment, the office culture is. I notice a lot of offices that the agent is, all about it. Then the producers are, and it's just like it's not like one agent just doing it. It's just like the whole staff and everybody's involved.
Yeah, it's a
So
ripple effect for
yeah.
sure. I mean, now they're transferred over to farmers. When I became an agent, I'm probably one of those few people that was like dying to become an agent. I had graduated from school, just finished up college like the year before, and I was just interviewing at different schools because I graduated to be a teacher, right, like an elementary school teacher.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and during that time, this is like '06, '07, LAUSD was having a lot of layoffs, meaning like teachers would work for an entire semester, and then the next term they didn't know if they were going to have a job or not. It's like a weird time.
Uh huh.
And I had a secure job, and I
State
was,
Farm.
yeah,
Right.
and I was really starting to enjoy it. That
Hmm.
was the thing, like, I didn't realize how much I was actually enjoying what I was doing until I started interviewing to be a teacher. And then I said, you know what? I kind of feel like I teach now in a way,
Right.
because, but I didn't realize it. I didn't realize that I was actually doing that. It's just like kind of like a subconscious thing
Hmm.
where, my skill set through college, I was very active in college. I was in a fraternity, and I was like, you know, always in some kind of team or a member of something.
I'm,
Right.
I'm not
So,
surprised you were social back then too.
dude, social butterfly, and, but, back then, I would speak in front of people, like the members, or in front of campus or whoever. Little did I know that I was building skill sets that I was going to eventually use, because, public speaking or even doing something like this is kind of nerve wracking. I don't care who you are, you know. Um,
Yeah, but
so
I've seen you speak, and you speak from the heart, man. You're a great speaker. That's one thing I remember. When you're back then, early on, we made some rounds together through some districts. I
right.
remember one time I had to go after you. I was like, "Oh man, this is gonna be, this is not a good spot to be in because you just fired up the agent so well." But
Who made me feel that way is
what's that?
our good friend Andy Zualaga. I mean,
Yeah.
I will request to never come after Andy Zualaga. I mean, that guy goes on stage, becomes Tony Robbins, and it's like it's got the whole crowd clapping and jumping up and down. I'm like, dude, I'm just not gonna speak today.
No, but you bring the energy too. But yeah, well, speaking of Andy, I'm trying to get him on the show. He's been acting shy, so
Yeah,
I want to
I'll put in
thank you.
I'll put in a call for you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but so I want to talk about the 100 lives. How to sell those lives because that's something definitely I want to implement in my agency. But tell me about really the early years of Farmers Insurance, and did you know? So you liked State Farm. That's kind of what made you want to become an
I
agent.
loved State Farm. Like, there's no secret behind like my training, my experience there. The agent that I worked for, to call him like a friend is an understatement.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's, you don't run into people too often in life that mentor, that coach, that bring people up, with no real like expectation of wanting anything back. In that sense, man, like I know I've been rich in life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like there's been always someone who's always cared enough to, be in my corner, watch out for me. Because the thing about me is, you know, I'm like a spaz in so many ways. Like, yeah, I'm a social butterfly. I have so many different circles of people and friends. It's hard to be grounded. It's hard to be focused. It's sometimes easy to get distracted. I mean, no one's perfect, right? So I know my limitations and I know things that I can improve on. But my experience there was nothing short of just like a very special experience. Unfortunately for me, he ended up taking on a promotion and went to go work in a different state.
Mm-hmm.
um, the agent that took over at the time, I just, I guess maybe I just started feeling like, hey, you know what? I've been doing this for almost 5 years. I think I can do it too,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the one thing you realize at 25, 26 years old is I didn't have enough money to
Mm-hmm.
really open up a State Farm agency. And going through their that program for them to be an agent, I started realizing, well, maybe this is going to be a little harder, or maybe I'm not as ready as I thought I was.
Right.
Um, but then, you know what? Just like anybody else, I ended up thinking to myself, well, like maybe there's opportunity somewhere else, right?
Right.
And I had never thought about leaving up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
One thing about working over there was, there's a lot of pride in where you work. So I was like, I'm a loyal guy. That's one thing about me. Like, I'm a Laker fan. I'm always, I'm a diehard Laker fan. If I'm a diehard Dodger fan. So working for State Farm, I used to like be really proud of where I worked, and I represented it the same way. Um, but then when I started, not getting the opportunity there, and then I looked around, found farmers, through just Googling, like how to become a farmer's agent.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Same here.
it was so funny. And, my story is even worse because I remember, there was a DM and his dad was a farmer's agent. I mean, a State Farm agent. So my old
Okay.
agent, I don't know, I'm not throwing any names out, but it's a funny story. So my agent at the time was like, look, he's an agent at State Farm. His son's a district manager. Maybe you should reach out to him. Man, I'm telling you, dude, nobody wanted me. I would call this district, nobody would call me back.
Really?
Yeah, I swear to God, nobody would call me. I
But
was like,
back then
dude,
they were like desperate for agents, though.
you know what? Tell me about it, right? So like, I'm like, okay, and I didn't know how the game worked,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, man, nobody's calling me back. So um, I Googled like local district office, and I was
Uh-huh.
working in Montebello. So my office with my district managers in Santa Fe Springs. So I remember saying, you know what? I took a half day from work,
Mm-hmm.
and I drove over there, and sorry, and I interviewed for with the recruiter at the time at my district.
You just stopped in without an appointment, huh?
I just showed up.
Yeah.
I was like, listen, man, I want to be an agent. What does it take?
Yeah. How come no one's calling me back?
I had a resume. I thought it was all the same thing though, because I didn't know better, right? So I thought
Right.
all these district offices worked together. I didn't know how it was, man. I was like 25, 26. And I remember the recruiter was like, oh, you have a degree, why don't you become an RDM, and then you can become a district manager. And I was like, listen, with no due respect, like I didn't come here to work for anybody. I want to be an agent. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's how serious I was. Like, and I think that has everything to do with so much of why I had so much early success. Is there's not a lot of people out there that like, oh, I can't wait to be an insurance agent, But for me, I did.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was shooting for. That's what I wanted. I wanted that opportunity because I knew what I could bring to the table, and I was hungry. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was just one of those guys that just needed an opportunity. It's
Yeah.
really what it came down to, and I'm sure you feel the same way because I know you and I, when we started, we were both running at the same time, and I just remember her being like, "Oh, okay, well, And then I secretly met with my district manager at a Starbucks, like 2 blocks from my job. I was all paranoid. I'm gonna get fired, because I was still a CSR
Uh-huh.
or an LS5 is what they used to call it, and he just, dude, like literally on a piece of paper, gave me the presentation, like a napkin presentation, And I was like, look, I just need to make up this income that I make now. You think I can do it? I mean, he was just like, yeah, you could do it. It's like easy. I was like, all right, well, sign me up, you know.
Yo,
And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. No clue. But you know what? I think that was the beauty of being a kid. You know, I was like 26 years old. No, like fearless, clueless.
confident.
Yeah, well, confident in myself for sure. I mean, you know, I knew what I could do. That was the
Yeah.
thing. I said, you know what? I could tell I had been developing, you
Mhm,
know, and I didn't want to work for somebody else anymore. That was really what it was. I just felt like I bring a lot to the table. Why not do it for me? You
mhm,
know? And I mean, the rest is history, man. You know, I got to Farmers at maybe like the golden era of the Southern Division, you know, like from management to the promotions to the like everything that was going on. I just felt like, man, I felt like I fit in.
mhm.
Like as much as
Yeah.
I loved State Farm, I feel like my personality just kind of shined here a little more.
Mhm,
I met so many people like myself,
mhm.
you know. At State Farm, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. When I was a producer at State Farm, there was other producers kicking my butt. It's not like I was over there like this
Oh yeah.
top prospect or like doing killing it. I mean, I was doing well, but there was other people, other LS5s that were just on another level. So I just kind of felt like I need to develop. I could do this, and the best decision I've ever made,
Yeah.
honestly. I
Yeah.
mean, looking back, I mean, the way my life's changed, like who I've become. Obviously, nobody was gonna prepare me for that ride. You know, like, dude, I'll give you a funny story because you're Mr. Bristol West, you know. So check out my Bristol
I
West story.
was.
Yeah. Well, you know, but I'm talking about back in the day.
Yeah, I was.
Because so was I though, believe it or
Yeah.
not. You know, I love
And
Bristol
and
West.
it's back.
Yeah, it's back. But I'm talking about, remember when Bristol West took that it was like the first time ever I think we ever took like a rate reduction.
Oh yeah.
I just
That was
remember people
crazy.
people went crazy, right? So I remember, but my first story with Bristol West is when I was at State Farm, I had a buddy who had a DUI, so I couldn't insure him.
Mhm.
They didn't take people with DUIs if it's just one car, you know. So I remember being at this training at the university, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you know, if you people with DUIs qualified through Bristol West." I was like, "No way."
It just came out too.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna write my boys." I
Mhm.
call him up. I was like, "Hey, guess what? I can insure you." I was all happy. I can insure you, dude. You know, whatever. He's like, "Okay." That's the only Bristol West policy I wrote in my first month as an agent.
Okay.
The division was having a Bristol West promotion,
Oh
like who could
really?
write the most. And then there was like this wild card where like some random person, as long as you wrote one policy, you get picked. So I got picked. I got picked to go over like at the Pachanga Hotel, you know, like state executives and life specialists and all this. Dude, I didn't know anybody. I was clueless. And I had been an agent like 3 weeks, you know, and here I am at this promotion, you know, like steak dinner, this wine. I never even had wine before. I was just like, dude, this is the life. This is what I'm talking about, you know?
I'm writing one policy.
Writing one policy. Yeah, that's how my first promotion happened.
No, when you said like it was the best decision you made in your life, and it's funny how things happen. I'll tell you my story. When I was working at AAA, and then I was about to become an agent, I was looking at all these other companies and options,
Yeah,
and obviously State Farm was one of them. I actually went to because I felt like I forgot what the qualification was, but you know I qualified, but then I just had to take a test.
right.
So I went to their corporate office in Irvine, and then I just took this test. I was on the computer. I was like, okay, it's
Oh,
just
the personality test.
personality test.
Yeah, I took that test too.
Dude, I failed it.
I did too.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and you know what?
Like,
I didn't realize later. You know why we failed it?
mhm.
It's because we were just too humble. Like I remember there was a question that was like, "How
What
much
it
do you want
was?
to make a year or something?" You know, and like
Uh-huh.
the answers were like, I mean, a month, 10,000, 30,000, 100,000. I was like, "Oh, 10,000." You know, I was being all humble. Like, "Oh, 5,000 a month would be great." Like, nah, man. You know, like looking back, I totally understand. Like, you know, it's not so much that like eh, you gotta just there's gotta be no limit to what we do,
Mhm.
right? And I think maybe we just didn't know better,
Yeah. No, I
you
felt
know.
like I was pretty ambitious on those questionnaires,
Oh,
but
you did? You know, I guess maybe I just thought I was humble. I don't
I
know.
don't know
Like
why I failed. Yeah, we don't know why, but
looking back now, somebody says, "How much do you want to make a month? Like 100 or a million?" I'll be like, "I want to make 5 million." Like I don't care now, you
right.
know. But
Now
back
that we
then,
know.
yeah, back then, I mean, I that was probably the one question I remember. So I remember asking one of the guys because I took that test, and some other guy that was going to be applying to be a State Farm agent. He actually became a State Farm agent.
Hmm.
And he was like, how did you answer these questions? I was like, man, I didn't even pass that test. I was like, what did you do for this one? He's like, oh, I did like the maximum for everything. I was like, oh, I didn't do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, or maybe, you know what? I don't know. I don't know how these
Yeah.
personality tests work, but I did
But
take it and failed it.
it was such a blessing how easy it was to become an agent back then, right? Like the requirements.
I
You just had to
think,
have a license, really.
you know what, the career program you're talking about, right?
Right.
The reserve agent.
Yeah.
Um, it's crazy because there were so many people that were becoming agents at that time because
Hmm.
qualifications and expectations were probably not as high,
And the
right?
pressure that the DMs had.
Yeah, exactly. But it was also a different time in
Hmm.
insurance. It wasn't so digital as it is today,
Hmm.
and
Right.
I think face to face was like a must because Zoom just really didn't exist.
Right. Yeah.
So um
There weren't even iPhones out back then.
was there? I don't think so, huh?
Yeah.
I think I had a BlackBerry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you might be right. And I just I'm thankful,
Yeah. Me too.
that I was part of that generation. I mean, I'm 39 years old, in so many ways people still consider me like a young man.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I feel young, but I've been doing insurance since like 2002, pretty much almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Like that's a long time.
Yeah.
Like I've been thinking about that lately. Like I'm still saying, because the thing about me is, and I think this might have something to do with why I still stay active and maybe I still make achievement clubs, is I still kind of feel like I'm new. Like I,
Hmm.
I kind of always feel like, like I got to keep going. And like I haven't hit a point in my career where like I feel like I ate too much or like I'm satisfied. I think there's a part of me that still feels like I have so much to learn, so much to grow. um because I think my personality works that way. It's spilled over into my career,
Yeah.
right?
No.
Because I like, I'll be honest with you, like, I have producers. I have two senior staff that have been with me, like Wendy, who's been with me since literally the first day I started. She
Oh
was
yeah.
actually in my district training me my very first day. Um, you know, we have a board,
Well, she was
and
working at the district, and now but she switched to. Oh,
yeah, so
okay.
she was working at the district as like a trainer,
Uh huh.
and then like 3 months later, I forget what happened, and she wasn't gonna work there anymore, and I literally was like, hey, you know what? You're really good.
Hmm. What
And
happened is what you recruited her.
I basically said, you want to work with me?
Uh-huh.
I didn't, dude, I wasn't even making very much back then.
I'm sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but what I ended up doing is I realized that you can borrow money through the credit union as a
Oh
farmer's
yeah.
agent,
Uh
right?
huh.
So I took like this very small little like contract value loan, but I don't even think it was a contract value loan. It's like a small business loan,
Uh huh.
just so that I can cover her payroll from like October through like December,
Right.
because I figured, because I was writing a lot of business for a reserve agent.
Hmm.
Nothing astronomical, but maybe like 30 policies a month and
Hmm.
a few life. But it was paperwork back then, was maybe I think more than
Oh
now.
yeah, for sure.
So I just remember there was always so much paperwork and scanning, and I was just like, dude, I suck at this,
Hmm.
right? And my phone started blowing up because
Still
I
listening.
I started putting myself out there, like,
Hmm.
hey, and you know what I realized too, Dan, is when I worked for an agent, people referred me people, and some people gave me a shot. I obviously started insuring my best friends and my family, like most
Hmm.
agents. But when I became an agent, I started getting people to kind of like support me. Um,
Right.
and that's something that we can talk about a little later if you want, but that's
No.
something definitely that I'm definitely going to be talking about at Embrace, because I think it's people sometimes ask me about referrals and
Hmm.
like how can you just survive off referrals, but it's not just referrals. It's how you get referrals and who's referring people to you, and that is a big difference from just expecting referrals. You can get referrals, but they could be crappy,
Hmm.
right? Or you could be, oh, hold on, my sensor, give me a sec.
Uh,
Sorry, I got those lights that time out after a while.
yeah. Yeah. No worries.
But where was I? Oh, about the referrals. So I like I'm gonna I don't want to get too much into that because that's not about what today's about. But like the referrals were just coming in so fast. So having Wendy help was a must. And I was having her help me when she was at the district. She wasn't my employee, but she worked for the district. You know how it was back then. The
Hmm.
district was very extremely helpful. It was crucial,
Hmm.
to your success. So having her, and then my district had good people. So it I ended up staying in my district. That's what's funny. Like I ended up working out of my district for like 6 years. I
Oh
had
yeah.
I ended up renting out half of his office. I, I had
I
like
worked out
the
of there for a while too. Yeah, it was great.
brick and mortar wasn't as important to me because everything that I was doing was in person
Hmm.
at people's homes.
Hmm.
Like I had this car. It was a funny story. When I first started as a farmer's agent, I had a Nissan 350Z.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
And I bought this
Getting
thing like,
getting places quick.
all right, yeah, 23, 24 years old, college guy in a 350Z. I thought I was living the dream, man. And
I had a G35, so
oh, you did have a G35. I
yeah,
remember that. I
yeah.
remember that now. And I remember, man, my car had like 30,000 miles on it. It was like cherried out, clean, not a scratch on it, right? 2 years into being an agent, like a year and a half, man, my car had almost 100,000 miles. My rims were scraped from parking my car in the middle of the night, not knowing where I'm going. Like I beat that poor little car up. You
You're
know,
hustling.
I was trying to just make sure that I can make up the income.
Hmm.
Because I left a good job. I
Hmm.
left for I was making more as a producer than I would have been making as a teacher. So I my biggest concern was replace your income.
Plus, you had an employee.
Yes, which at the time, um, one thing about me is I don't know if you remember like the road to agency, and it had this little guy, and it starts off with like career agent, blue vase, and then make toppers, make championship, and it has them at the end like making president's council.
Uh-huh.
It was like I really want that. I don't know who has it, but they used to make them like in like a 11 by 14, and John, my DM, had them everywhere in the office, and then he had a big old like canvas poster of it on the wall. I don't know what it was about that thing, but I was like always so gravitated towards it. I'd
Uh-huh.
look at it, I'd be like, okay, so like career, you go reserve agent to career agent, and then you got to make toppers, and then what's this FFS thing? Like, you know, because I was curious,
Hmm.
I was inquisitive more than
Hmm.
anything. And then I remember like they were like, oh, well, you can make an extra like I don't know if it was $500 or like an extra $1,000 if you get FFS license, because now you get
Oh yeah.
the diamond subsidy or
Subsidy.
something.
Yep.
Remember
Waiving
that?
it. Yep.
So I was like, oh, like sign me up. I didn't
Hmm.
even know what financial services were. I was like, I can make more money. Okay. Like what? Because so here I am, dude, signing up for the 6 and 63. And I was like, what is this? Like, what am I reading? Confused, no idea what I was doing. I was like, man, I really bit off more than I could chew. I was trying to treat it like anything else, like, oh, I'll just skim through it, no big deal. Nah, man, took my Series 6 test, failed horribly. I said, okay, no big deal. I went and bought the study material. I took a week off from work. At that time, that was a really big deal.
It
Like
was.
I took a week off from work, dude, and I went straight college mode. Went to my old college, sat in my library, and just knocked it out. Like aced that test. Like 2 or 3 weeks later, then I got my 63. Got back, and then just like what, like I tell you, man, like I've never looked back. It's just been like forward and onward. You know,
Man, the
whatever
dedication. You think, the fact that you grew up loving sports had a lot to do with like your drive and like,
everything.
yeah,
It's everything. Like
your
it.
heroes are hard workers, you know?
You know what? I grew up in the inner city, right? I grew up in South Central LA. I always bring this up. It's because it's a different environment. You know, when you grew up in that kind of an environment, it's I wasn't like in gang infested areas or nothing like that. I wasn't part of gangs or anything. But there is a certain street environment that you can't avoid, like from catching the
Sure.
bus and just coming home from school. It can be something like, you know, You're worried about your shoes being stolen or your backpack being taken away. I mean, little stuff like that quickly just makes you grow up maybe way faster than you might want to.
Hmm.
Like I have always had older friends. That's something that I gravitate to. Maybe like wisdom is
Hmm.
probably what it is.
Yeah, you want to learn your
Yeah,
curiosity,
yeah, and
like you
so
said.
and then I was always the youngest guy on the court playing ball. I was
Hmm.
the youngest guy playing football. But in so many ways, I was a little fearless about it.
Hmm.
I didn't see myself as the smallest, youngest guy on the team. I saw myself as like I got an advantage over all these other people that aren't playing ball with like the eighth graders when I'm in in elementary school or whatever.
Hmm.
So like competitiveness, I think it's I'm not really competitive with others. That's the thing about me is like as much as I love sports or whatever, I'm just more competitive with like myself,
Right.
which I think is a good trait.
It's
You know,
healthier.
yeah, because I'm actually glad I'm not like a competitive guy with others. Because I have friends or people that I know that are just competitive with me,
Hmm.
and it's like, look, man, I was like, you're gonna beat me this month. Go ahead. Like, I don't really care.
Yeah,
You
it's like
know,
your number, my numbers have nothing to do with yours, but
Jay
yeah.
Z said it. Like what you do ain't gonna do anything for me.
Hmm.
So since I've had that mentality, I think it's I stay in my own lane,
Hmm.
right? It's healthy,
Hmm.
and because so many people have done so many awesome things for me. Like I didn't get here alone. I
Hmm.
didn't become who I am by myself. So I love to give back. It's like what I enjoy doing probably the most. Um,
Yeah, you're big at it. You're big at it. One thing that I'll speaking of giving back, tell the audience what you think has helped. Did you get lucky with the employee? Because employee retention is on my mind. I'm lucky to
yeah,
have employees that's been with me for 9 years, 5 years, and many. But how? What is your philosophy of making sure an
look,
employee likes where they're at?
in so many ways, I'm a unicorn. And what I mean by that is not a lot of people start off as a reserve agent, hire someone 3 months in, have the kind of run that I have, and have the same person with them the entire time.
I know.
Um, I've been like Wendy's been with me 13 years. Okay. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not appreciative to having someone like that in my agency. Okay. Um, but then my brother came on board like a year and a half, 2 years after I became an agent. He spent 9 years with me. Okay. Um, so
Wow.
like not having the turnover,
Yeah.
not having that revolving door, I think is probably 80% of my success because I've been able to do what I do,
Right.
and then have people
Not go
that,
backwards and
but also people that treat the agency like it's almost theirs too, because in so
yeah,
many ways it is theirs.
yeah. They
It's
have
it's
equity.
probably it's probably more theirs than it is mine at this point.
Hmm.
From the clients to the culture, like I'm me always, you know.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that, I could be having a bad day personally, and if I'm in the office though, man, I'm in my man cave. Like nothing can really go bad here for me. And I mean that in the sense that I look around and it's like I'm spoiled, you know. Like I'm a big sports fan. Like my entire office is like a memorabilia museum. I got autographs everywhere, man, and I surround myself with that kind of stuff. And I think I do it subconsciously, just to be like, hey, you know what? Like, I try to keep those juices going all the time.
Mhm. And you want
Uh,
to be where you like to be at.
I want to feel like this is my environment,
Right.
right? And that's why I spend so much time in my office now, because it's like this is like my war zone.
Uh-huh.
Thanks to Zoom and a lot of other things, I've gotten really good on the phone,
Yeah.
probably as good as I was in person. So the face to face isn't not necessarily as important because I still enjoy doing that a lot. But now there's different technologies that can eliminate a 45-minute drive.
Hmm.
Like you're in Irvine, I'm in Santa Fe Springs. 10 years ago, we'd be having this in person with a phone recording us. Here
Yep.
we are now. It's like you can be anywhere in the world and do this.
Yeah. You just got off the phone with Embrace, and then 1 second later, you're with me.
Jumped off of Zoom with people in Texas, and then now I'm on the phone with you, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, it's it's a different time from when we
Yeah.
started. right? Just a crazy time.
For sure. And yeah, well, I just want to, acknowledge you for being, a great boss you must be, to have that type of retention when it comes to employees. It just means that, you look out for them, that's an impressive, thing. I didn't actually know about your office situation and your culture there. So,
Yeah.
uh, that's key to growing your business, like you said, 80%.
I mean, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I want to touch base a little bit about, your first PC,
Hmm.
what was that like? Because you told me about the career path and like these goals, and you knew that every agent's goal was to reach it. So doing the math, I mean, it didn't take you that long,
No, I made PC my first year eligible.
which
I,
was how many years in the business?
I think I 3 years. I was like two and a half. I just hit my third year. Like I made PC in 2011. It was the first year they announced it, or was it 12? That's so hard to remember now. But my first experience was, you know what? Honestly, I was just on a cloud prior to PC, anyways,
Mhm.
um, because I didn't realize I was going to be good at this. I never got into
Uh,
insurance for like traveling or for awards, or I didn't even know anything about achievement clubs.
right.
I didn't get into this for those reasons. So the fact that I've been able to go to these things for just doing what I do, it's
Anyways,
the,
yeah,
it's the best part.
yeah.
Because if I started turning my agency into just like an achievement club based environment, I know that I wouldn't be happy anymore. So the fact that I've been able to make achievement clubs doing what I love to do, it's the most unreal experience. But um, when I tell you about the golden age, when I call it that, because it was just such a wonderful time for me. My first 2, 3 years in the business are just like, I cherish it so much because I met so many amazing people so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, making achievement club or also like making the local promotions. That
Mm-hmm.
was for me the coolest part. You know, at the time, Charles Dabagot was the state exec,
Mm-hmm.
and Carol, who runs our area now, was in that around during that time. And then, Adrian Gammo, Samuel Salimian, there was all these different people, they worked out of the home office in Carlsbad. And
Mm-hmm.
since I used to go to so many events, I used to spend so much time. I got to know them. I go to Palm Springs and spend a weekend with them. It was just a really cool time. And then I didn't realize that what I was doing had started separating me from other agents in the territory,
Mm-hmm.
because I just lived in my little bubble, like I go to these events, cool, whatever, and then little did I know that I had started hitting certain production that was making other people notice me, right? Outside of just the Southern Division. At this point, statewide. And then obviously when I got nominated for PC and I got to go, I was just like completely mind blown. Like, you're telling me I'm going to President's Council? You know what's funny is I didn't even know the magnitude of what President's Council really was then. And I know that some people are like, yeah, right. No, I swear to you, because it was a different time, Dan.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't like it is now where like people today talk about it like, oh, I want to make PC. Okay, well, good. That's a good goal. I never said, oh, I want to make PC, or like PC is my goal. It seems so unattainable. Like the agents that would make President's Council in our area at that time was like Ann Cow, Stephen Lee, right? Like Patrick Prindeville,
Yeah.
Debbie Curtis. Like, I'm a 3-year agent, man. I remember my come to Jesus moment at PC. Luckily, because I made these promotions locally, I had some buddies.
Uh-huh.
Steven was a good friend of mine. So he's like probably one of my dearest friends, completely looking out for me, like total like
Such
big
a great
brother.
guy.
Yeah, big brother taking care of me the whole PC, right?
Nice.
But I write live. So I used to watch the leaderboard.
Mm-hmm.
Debbie Curtis was always like number one, number two, and premium and issued and paid. I remember when I first met her, I was just like, oh, that's Debbie Curtis. Like almost like, dude, like, it's funny because, they call it like farmers famous. Like you're
Uh-huh.
like, you see all these people on these leaderboards, right? So you get to meet them. It's like, for me, it's like you meet a celebrity or whatever, like,
Yeah.
or like an NBA player. So I'm like, oh, hey, Debbie, I'm Mike or whatever. She's like, oh, okay, hi, hello. And I'm just like, well, you're Debbie Curtis.
Like a fanboy.
Yeah, I was like a total fanboy. She's gonna see this and she's gonna crack up because I don't know if she'll even remember. I remember her. I remember like I don't know who else she was with. I think it might have been like her son or somebody, and they were just looking at me like, this guy's up here asking my mom, "You're Debbie Curtis?" Like, no shit, you know. Uh,
Hey, now the yeah, but PC is a big deal, man, because how many agents are there in California,
oh, dude, there's
and
so many, and back then there was more.
mhm,
You know, there was so many agents. Like, there's not as many agents anymore, honestly. Dude,
mhm,
there was a time I remember, like, has to be like 7 years ago. There was a time where I Googled like farmers agents around my office.
mhm.
There was like 20 within like a mile and a half.
Wow.
Like
Yeah,
it was like a lot, you know.
yeah.
It was a
I
time
didn't
where
think about that.
there was a time where like honestly farmers agents were my biggest competition
Right.
because
And
there was so many.
it was just so easy to become one.
Yeah, and they were everywhere,
It's too
you
easy,
know.
yeah.
And I remember thinking like, man, like competition's been steep. And you know what, I'm around some hitters, you know, like Andy's down the street, and you know, Andy dominates in the real estate world and in the mortgage world. And it's been it hasn't always been easy because I didn't have any like real connections when I became an agent as
Mhm,
far as like networking or anything like that. It was just super organic.
mhm,
Friends, families that I know, and then getting on the phone, hitting up my fraternity brothers, like, hey, you know, dude, let me quote you, type of deal, you know, like super grassroots, you
mhm.
know. Um, but you know, going back to, I don't know if I ever finished my thought on like compared to like being a producer versus being my own agent is the support was a little different.
Yeah,
I felt like certain people kind of went out of their way, like, hey Mike, by the way, congrats, dude, on doing what you're doing. You know, like hey man, quote my stuff, you
right.
know?
Because
And
now they understand you're in it for real, you know? It's like
yeah,
your
yeah,
business.
yeah,
You're
like, you
not
know,
gonna like switch jobs or anything like that,
nah, man,
you know?
and you know what? I have like real close relationships with a lot of my high school buddies. Still, I like to think that I have a close relationship even with my high school. You know,
Mhm.
I like supporting them.
I see
I like
that.
to give back to them, and since you know I maintain these relationships, I never realized how it was gonna expand my network exponentially. You know, like, and the thing is, you know, at the time I was young, man, so it was different. You know, like being 26 and talking to like a 40 something year old back then, like not everybody took me as serious,
Mhm,
right? And that's why going to people's houses was so important
mhm,
because I could actually show them, hey, listen, dude, I know I might be young, but I'm educated.
mhm.
You know, I'm well versed. I understand coverage. I understand risk. I've seen claims. I've seen death. So, listen, you might not understand what's in front of you and what your risks are, but I do. And yeah, I might be 26, but I know that bad things can happen. You know, I know that you're not insured, right? And that's why I think Farmers was a good fit because Farmers products are excellent
Mhm.
despite of everything else that we have going on, right? I'm not even talking about competing with other companies. I'm just talking about our base products are great.
Yeah, and the claims.
Well, our service claims, the
Mhm,
800 number, right? And then you go into even like for me, because I was active with farmers, I also got exposure to leadership,
mhm.
and I had access to talking to people about certain things. And then Farmers is a multi-billion dollar company, and you can literally call executives and share concerns, and it goes right to the top. That was unreal to me.
Yeah,
You know, it's never really felt like it's farmers and then us. It's
right.
always felt like if I need to get something across, it's crazy how it can escalate to the right people so quickly.
Yeah, I've been seeing that more recently for me.
Yeah,
That's so true that how where opinions are valued. I think a lot of
100%.
corporations don't work like that, you know.
Or maybe don't work as closely with the workforce, which is us, because we're the frontline workers. If you think about it, when it
Mhm.
comes to insurance, we're the first contact, we're the recruiters, we're the marketers. We create that, you know. But I always feel like at least I know I got farmers is going to back me up.
Mhm.
You know, there's been some claims and some spots that I've been like, oh man, I don't know what's going to happen. And dude, farmers sometimes just blows me away with like how they handle it,
Mhm.
right? Since I insure so many close friends and family members, it's very important for me that they experience that
Yeah.
because you know, I'll give you a funny one. Like close friends or not, if it's a bad experience, it's a bad experience, right? People will shop and leave or whatever. My mom and my dad haven't paid an insurance payment since I became an agent. All right.
They haven't paid?
They don't pay insurance. I pay the insurance.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. I cover the insurance payment, right?
Gotcha.
That kind of came with the role of being the farmer's agent. I was like, I got this now, guys. I'll take care of the insurance. But um, there was a time where I forgot. There must have been like back then, like e-policy wasn't the same. So like remember back in the day, like every car had a policy number,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
but or like
That was a pain.
yeah, different, it wasn't as seamless as it is today. It
Yeah,
was
different
different.
policy, some different billing, and
Yeah, it was just so difficult,
yeah.
like to organize a household like mine with like so many cars, so many,
Oh man,
my
did you
mom, my
let it
dad.
lapse, Mike?
No, it's better than that. You're gonna actually laugh. So my mom and my dad, mind you, this is like 2-3 years in, like 2 years in. They don't even, my dad doesn't even pay the insurance bill anymore. And he's like calling the complaint, calls the office, like, you guys are sending too much mail. It's like, look, man, you haven't even paid the bill. Like, don't worry about the mail. He's like calling me to complain. Why is there so much mail at the house? Like, you know what? Just put it aside. I'll pick it up. Like, I remember that was a thing though. Like, clients would be like, there's so much mail. Like, there's so
Yeah.
much mail. Like, I remember my office, like, so much return mail. Like, I'll never forget that. Like, so much mail,
And also, what's crazy was like you did a quote and you didn't like get out of it right. It just bounded it.
Oh yeah, you remember that?
Remember that? I was like,
Yeah, like, oh wait, I didn't mean to do that.
and then now you're sending out policies to people that just got quotes.
And they'd be like, hey man, I didn't sign up for this. Like, what are you doing over there? Like, oh dude, I swear to you, I'm sorry. Or I remember like you'd be in the middle of a quote and it just like an error message will show up. And you know what? I back then I didn't know that it's because the system was servicing itself. So like you were probably like me, like I couldn't sleep back then. It would be like 11 o'clock at night. I'd be just like working on a quote. Midnight,
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah,
just
yeah.
dummy quoting, just, oh, what would it look like if I insured a Lamborghini? I was just like always looking at stuff like that. And then like these things would disappear. And I'd be like, what the hell happened? Right. And then they were like, well, between hours of 11 to 1, Farmers is like servicing the system. I get off the system.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And then also the eFolio. It was like
The Russian roulette.
it was like the most nervous. I mean, there were some tear sheds some months. Like you just don't know. I have no idea what the heck was going on.
I gotta tell you, as much as I love Ice, and when that came out, that was game changing. I remember being at PC when they announced that, or was it a championship? I don't remember, but I remember thinking like, oh, that's gonna be awesome. But there was nothing like not knowing what you were gonna make.
Yeah, until you got
Remember,
paid.
like, yeah, like I don't know what I'm gonna make this month. Here comes March 1st. Like, oh, okay, I did okay.
Yeah,
Tracking your own production,
yeah,
crazy, man, just crazy.
crazy times. What about the PC and the agents you met there? And how that has helped you.
That's a
Um,
that's a great question, man. Like the the fact that the success came for me probably a little accelerated also I think has a lot to do with why it stayed consistent,
mhm,
because it's all I've known, right?
you're right.
So making President's Council, when I made it, kind of said to me like, okay, you're at the show. Okay, you also kind of know what it took.
Right.
2011 was a banner year for me. That was the year that got me to PC. That's the year I wrote 185 live. Dude, it was like out of freaking control. And the next year, I had even a better year.
Wow.
Like production wise, I think I grew my agency by like, I mean, I'm gonna just throw a random number, like 1,400 PIF grew. At that time, that was like unheard of. I already had like 1,400 policies going into that year.
So you like doubled it.
Dude, out of control. And just killing it in life. I really started getting into the VUL that year because that first PC is when people were talking about variables and rollovers and stuff. So I kind of started changing my conversation
Hmm.
and started attracting a different clientele too.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Um, but I got nominated for Agent of the Year my second year at PC. And back then, that was kind of a thing, like to get nominated, because they used to announce it like there's 3 or 4 nominations, and then like for personalized agents of the year, they will show it. Like now, I don't think they do it like that. Now they just announce like the winners or something. Um, and then I was just like, what?
Wow.
Yeah, totally like numb. People were like my friends, like Steven and Richard So, and I have a lot of like George Wynn, they might be older, but they're like my crew, we're like hanging out. They're like, do you even know that's a big deal? I was just like, I don't know, man. Like, I didn't even know they were gonna nominate me. It was like I was so green, dude. I was so green, so like fresh to it,
Yeah.
like but I gotta tell you, man, like it was still kind of like a surreal moment looking back. And then like obviously I didn't win, and Christian won, and like the winners, like my friend Valentin, he won personal lines agent of the year that year. And I was just like happy to just be there, man, like a little kid. Like, oh man, this is so cool, like get nominated. Like, dude, I honestly meeting so many good agents, right?
Hmm.
Being in this environment, and then realizing that the biggest producers, they're the coolest, like they're the nicest.
Hmm.
They're not competing with anybody. Like these guys, man, what do they have to complain about? They're going to traveling all over the world. They're making president's councils, probably doing very well in their business. So I didn't deal with a lot of like negativity
Hmm.
or like competitive. Instead, I dealt with a lot of people that were like, "Hey, man, you're doing a really good job. Like, you know, and like you should keep this up. Like, not a lot of people are doing what you're doing."
And also
So,
happy to share, right?
the sharing, the mentorship,
Hmm.
it was like I was like an open, like everybody was an open book. I remember when I met Ralph Bravo for the first time. It was like at one of those like first time agent dinners or like meet and greet.
Hmm.
And rest in peace to Ralph. But I remember he was just like, listen, this isn't gonna be your first, all right? You can't just make one and not come back the next year. And I was just like, dude, I'm just like so happy to be here right now. I can't even think about next year yet. But it was like not that I wasn't trying to disappoint myself, but I kind of had like this blueprint for what I thought was gonna take it, because there's never really been like set rules for a president's council. So
Right.
nobody, I mean, there's got to be some agents that probably know they're going to go, but I don't know if I'm going to go. I don't know what the criteria really can be, because I'm in California. California's got some top producing agents, man. Like you're one of them. I've always seen your numbers. You and I have been friends for a long time. You recently made your first couple of PCs, but I've always seen how well you've done. But I also then realized that I think, and I know you know this now because you share a lot now. You give a lot back. I've always been very open to like speaking at another district office, mentoring other agents, and I realized that what President's Council is a council, right?
Hmm.
And
Right.
it's not just always production. It's also like how you represent farmers, how you carry yourself,
Absolutely.
how much you want to give back. And in that sense, I mean, dude, it's like that's what I love to do.
Right.
And that's why I tell you, like, it's been a very pleasant experience to be able to do so many cool things, because I'm doing so much of what I love on the daily,
Yep.
right? And yeah, so making achievement clubs, making all those local division meetings and events, it's been a game changer. It
Yeah.
probably has so much to do with where my career went.
Yeah. Keeps you motivated. Um, but yeah, so I know firsthand how difficult it is.
To
You know,
make it, right?
yeah, it's not easy. I mean, just four out of our territory or area, I don't know what you call it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and just to see you always there, it's incredible, man, what you've accomplished.
Sometimes I don't even like I don't even realize it, like in a weird way, because you know how insurance is. Like if my board is empty this week, that's the only thing I'm worried about.
Right.
I could care less about what I've done the last 10 years. So like, but this year, actually last year, 2020 was a good year for me personally,
Hmm.
in the sense that, I grew a lot. I because the world stopped,
Hmm.
and it was the first time I stopped in 13 years. Like I
Right.
had literally been driving 100 miles an hour for a long time. Um, I got a chance to reflect.
Hmm.
I got a chance to think about my health, because I caught COVID early,
Oh
like in
yeah.
March, and I didn't even know it initially. I was at this like a leadership conference with like 300 people, and like 7 people got really sick.
Oh wow.
I was lucky enough to not get too sick,
Uh-huh.
but it hit me and it knocked me out. And then I shut down my office, and then California shut down. And then like I'm literally sitting on my couch thinking like this could be over. Like, what if people lose their jobs? Like, people aren't going to pay their bills, and then it's done. Like, that's the first thing I thought of. And I'm here,
Yeah.
I am having trouble breathing with COVID. you know um I was a little overweight too, to be honest with you. I just got back from Spain. I had not taken a trip in a really long time. So a couple of my my high school buddies and my brother took like 10 days in Spain, and
Mm-hmm.
we went through like all these different cities. Super cool trip, like to take with your buddies at this stage of my life. That's kind of rare, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And, but the vacationing, the eating, I probably put on like 10 pounds, maybe more. So I was probably like at my heaviest when COVID hit. Um, and so like right after that, man, I said, you know what? It's good to enjoy yourself, have a good time, but I got to take better care of myself, and I got to get more sleep, and like I got to get rest, and stress and anxiety, man, like it's a killer, and it was killing me slowly without even realizing it. So I've taken all kinds of different steps. I started running. I've never ran before. I started
Yeah.
running.
I
I
see
run
in
a
your
lot.
stories all the time.
Yeah, you know
You're
what?
super consistent, man.
And you know why I do it is it's because I like if a memory comes up and I ran the year before,
Mm-hmm.
it makes me want to run
Mm-hmm.
or go to the gym. And that's why I do it. And I do it for myself. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, nobody cares that I ran 2 miles a day, you know,
Mm-hmm.
nobody cares. So I know that for me, I care,
Yeah.
I care, and it makes a difference. But um, what 2020 did though for me, Dan, is by slowing me down, it gave me a chance to look at all the things I wasn't doing right, because I do a lot of things right and it keeps the train moving, but I needed to evolve a little bit. I needed to become more of a coach and more of a mentor
Mm-hmm.
than just the producer, because I've been producing for a long time myself,
And you're freaking good at it too. So
and I
it's hard
love
to take
it
a
so
step
much.
back.
Because I love it,
Yeah.
but I also realize that I'm only as good as the people on my team, and dude, it took me, not that I didn't know it already, it's just I don't think I was ready.
Right.
I wasn't ready to like
You love
let
that
go.
role.
I
Yeah.
I do, man, because guess who I'm competing with? Me.
Yeah.
So I'm competing with 2011 Mike. I'm competing with 2014 Mike. Like,
Yeah. You don't want the
so
old you to sell yourself. And you're so good at, I mean, your charisma, you're just a natural salesperson, man. I mean, it's just,
maybe sales, right? I think life insurance is a good topic to talk about sales,
mhm,
because auto and home, they're required.
mhm.
You can't drive in California without auto insurance. It's illegal,
Yeah.
right?
Sometimes you're worried that even the computer could do it now.
A homeowner's policy, for the most part, mortgage company is going to require it at the close of escrow, right?
Yep.
So, what are you really selling? Or when are you actually using your skill set? For the most part, I think it's FFS, life insurance, and commercial.
Yeah.
It's when you're now having a completely different conversation,
Yeah. It's a
right?
much more complex sales
Yeah,
process.
and I don't know if sales is the right word, but it definitely, there's some type of psychology that has to
Mhm.
come in into the communication between the two parties,
Yeah. It's more than
right?
sales. It's like relationship.
Exactly. It's an
Yeah.
emotion. It's and at that point, that's what separates certain agents from growth. Like, certain agents get to a certain point where they dominate auto and home.
Hmm.
Okay, that's great. Now learn some commercial,
Hmm.
learn some life insurance, do some FFS. For me, this year is going to be more about um, finding products for certain clients that I might have overlooked, you
Hmm.
know,
The
like,
hustle.
yeah, well, like honestly, like the last few months, I've been doing a lot of rollovers,
Okay.
because a lot of people have lost jobs or whatever. And COVID shifted a lot of things and a lot
Mhm.
of the way people thought. And the reason we sold so much life insurance last year is because I caught COVID. And I
Yeah.
said, you know what, dude? not that I mean, I got sick. I didn't know what was going to happen. It was prior to the testing, so it was like a really scary
Yeah, for
experience for me.
sure.
Like, I said to myself, man, this is how people must feel like if they get cancer or they get bad news
Yeah,
about their
because
health.
back then people didn't know how severe or how not severe it was. Like people thought
No.
you get it, you die.
And this
You
is
know?
literally before the city kind of shut down and
Yeah,
all
it was
that.
it
So
was scary stuff.
it wasn't just scary. Hold on a second. It inspired me.
Mm,
That's what it did. That was kind of cool, like it had been a while, Dan. It had been a long time since I was like, oh, like, okay, like let me get back into this. I was just like in cruise control, just like everything was flowing.
mhm,
And then I said, you know what? I gotta slow down. I wasn't just so quick to like get off the phone and make the I started saying, you know what? I gotta start having a different conversation, you know? And I'm not ever gonna be like the biggest premium writer. Um, I do very well with what I do, with what I have, with my clientele.
mhm.
Um, I have been growing it and it has been evolving, right?
Yeah,
But my agency's been growing with me, so it's aging with me too.
right.
So when I started, a lot of my friends weren't married. A lot of my friends didn't have kids. A lot of my friends weren't in their professions. A lot of
Hmm.
now we're in our 40s, late 30s. People are married.
Hmm.
People do have kids.
Buying
People are
houses.
thinking about retirement.
Hmm.
So that is a piece of
That's
my
so,
career that I had not thought about. That
that's so
what,
cool.
we're all in a different place and
Right.
we're all having different conversations. So since most of the people that I originally started with are all in similar ages, we're also going through similar things.
Right.
So my agency is now also evolving with the clientele. You
Yeah.
know,
And with you too, because I always say, your agency will never outgrow the agency owner.
no,
So that's really insightful that you took that time to self-reflect and get introspective and look at yourself, and look at what you
yeah,
need to work on.
yeah.
Um,
Like
so
right now. I think this is like the healthiest I've been
yeah, you look great,
mentally
man.
mentally in a
You look
while.
great.
Like I've
Yeah,
lost some weight. I said I'm gonna take care of myself. Like I take care of a lot of people, whether it's like friendship wise, financially. Like I have a lot on my plate, but the
family,
one
employees.
family, yeah, employees. The responsibility that comes with being a boss. You know what
Hmm.
that's like. I'm an older brother. That there's certain responsibility there. I come from a very low income family, so it's like I feel like I'm carrying that for us.
Hmm.
I represent us, and um I'm just like I needed to take care of me.
Yep.
It'd been a while, dude. It'd been a while since I had taken time for me. You
No, I'm
know,
happy to hear that because it actually helps you get back better. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, then you can't help anybody. If you're not in a good state of mind
yeah,
or physically. So
and you know what? I Everything affects everything.
yeah,
Like you don't sleep right, what you're eating, no exercise, the stress. Like it's so easy, man, to like have success, get in this game, and then like lose track of all that. You
right.
know, I don't want to be that guy. Like I feel like I have a lot of things that I still want to do, insurance, of course, but I have a lot of other interests.
Hmm.
You know, um, so I'm just kind of like just in a good place. Like
Yeah, because I'm
I'm
really
like,
excited about the future, and that's how I feel too. We're really blessed, really fortunate to have where this business has brought us. But
I look at you, and even from a distance, and I've seen your involvement, right? Because I'm curious. I'm an inquisitive guy by nature, and I started seeing your marketing, and then I started seeing your podcast, and then I started seeing your interaction, right?
mhm,
Like I said, you know what? Like you're doing a lot of the things I say I'm gonna do, but you're doing them. And usually it's the opposite. I'm the kind of guy that's doing things that people say they want to do, right? So
no, man.
yeah, I got to tell you, like the thing is, sometimes I've realized that you can inspire people and influence them and not even know it, right? Like you're just doing you, Dan. You're doing what you like, like, but you're also doing things that made me think like, you know what, I should just do a live, or because I have other interests, and my other interests also relate to the things that you do, like from a podcast standpoint. Like I have a lot of friends that do a lot of cool things.
Hmm.
Doctors, attorneys,
Hmm.
business developers. I have a huge network. Um, and I have buddies like you do, like, love shoes. Like you and I could probably have a 2-hour podcast on Nikes and Jordans, right?
Yeah, or Clippers and Lakers.
Exactly. And I feel like, as a person, as a personality that I have, like I think that that's gonna probably be my next step, is
Yeah,
gonna be
you're a
to like,
natural communicator, man.
but
You know.
also like I want to implement it all.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I listen to a lot of podcasts. I
Hmm.
listen to a lot of like self-motivational stuff. I
Hmm.
love
Too.
audiobooks,
Hmm.
so like I've evolved,
Hmm.
I'm evolving.
Same here.
And I think it's important that we continue to do things like this,
Hmm.
because you're a pioneer in that sense,
Oh
right?
no.
I was a pioneer in maybe 100 life to some agents, because I'll tell you, like, I remember, did you ever go to Paula when we used to have the Paula convention before we used to go to Reno?
Yeah.
Yeah, remember
Yeah. At
that?
one time though.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
loved Paula. It
Hmm.
was like so intimate, right? The
Yep.
player, I think we called it the Players Club. So funny.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I spoke, was at that event. But I remember like agents, I never met them, dude. Never met these agents. And mind you, I was only like a 2-year agent. They'd be like, "Oh, dude, I'm gonna come next year and I'm gonna beat you." And I'd be like, all right, like, I don't even know you, dude.
Yeah, who are you?
I'm at the bar, having a good time. This guy's like, "Hey man, I'm gonna beat your production next month." And at first, like, I didn't know how to take it. Like, all right, man, like, like, do you know where I'm from? I'm from the hood. But I realized after, like, sometimes you don't even realize
Who
that
you're helping?
or that people are noticing your
Mhm.
production. You know, Last year at Embrace, was it 2 years ago, 2019, I've spoken everywhere, Dan. I've spoken at Toppers. I've spoken at the home office. I've spoken at district managers' offices. I've spoken at my office. I've spoken everywhere.
Mhm.
But that year at Embrace, and Embrace is a conference that you and I can talk about a little later. But it was, Embrace conference was like at the time, it was like a Latino based conference, right?
Mhm.
I remember when the mailers went out, and I was like, how come I didn't know about that? I want to be at that. Me, I can't. I have FOMO. Got to be at everything.
Mhm.
So, but I remember being on stage, and I shared a real personal story. Actually, like the reason why I became an agent, and I
Uh-huh.
hadn't shared that story in like a really long time, you know. And there was like, so sometimes, I mean, you've spoken, and like after the event, like certain people want your business card, or they want to ask you a couple questions that maybe they couldn't get in while you were speaking. I had never had like that many people like stopping me, like, "Hey, can I talk to you?" Like a district manager would come in, it was like 3 agents. "Hey, you know what? Like, I follow you on social media. Like, I've seen your stuff. Like, I'd really like to like maybe have a conversation with you." I've had that before, Dan,
Mhm.
but never like it was there.
Wow.
I think at that might have been like maybe the best time I've ever had come across or communicated, and maybe made people feel what I've probably had felt becoming an agent and all that,
Mhm.
And I said, at that moment is when I said, you know what? I have a story, and that's always the key. Do you have a story, right? Like, what's your story? And my story has actually affected some agents. And that's a really good feeling,
It is. Absolutely.
because other people's stories affected me once.
Right.
Other people's uh, journeys inspired me. Um, I didn't. It's hard to go back to when you were like young and motivated, because as time has gone on, not that you get jaded, but we evolve.
Mhm.
We're not in our early 20s anymore. Now we're in our late 30s or whatever, and our 40s. And I realized, like, man, like, not that I forgot where I was or where I had started, but it was nice to remember. Like, it was
Yeah.
one of those few, like, it was almost like an out of body experience where like I felt the whole journey.
Mhm.
Like, I was like I was feeling the early stages of the career, and then I had now started feeling like, Mike, you've done all right, man. Like, because we are probably our harshest critics, right?
Yeah.
And
We don't
and
give
we
ourselves any credit.
no, none, dude. And you know what? I do spoil myself with a lot of things. Like if I want a Magic Johnson basketball, like I'm gonna buy it. Like I don't care. Like those are the kind of things that I do. But on a mental level, I had never really congratulated myself or also acknowledged like,
Yeah.
hey, you know what, man, like, because they
You
were
can.
they were they were they were laying out like the accomplishments,
Mhm.
like Mike Ruiz has done this and this and that, and they're putting other top agents next to me or me next to them, and I was just like, yeah, you know what, like I've done some stuff, like, and that's what 2020 was about for me, was like, look, like regroup,
Mhm.
you know, uh,
Reflect.
reflect, work on yourself, you
Mhm.
know, but
Re-strategize.
right, I've gone through a lot the last 5 years of my life. I've had a lot of personal things that have gone up and down and things like that. So, I didn't realize how that was going to affect me because I dove into work,
Right.
right? So since I dove into work, I disassociated myself from other things that I needed to actually probably handle and take care of. But since I always run so fast, I didn't even give myself a chance to think, to mourn, to whatever. So at Embrace, because that was like October, I think. And then COVID happened pretty much like a few months after.
Mhm.
It was like a good time for me to, you know, go through like a growth spurt, maybe,
Mhm.
because our careers, man, like there's going to be ups and downs, right? There's going to be times where like we're having a good time, and there's other going to be times where it's going to be stressful. Sometimes we can't help it.
It changes on a daily too.
Yeah, dude. Like, like you get curveballs are the reason why the best players in baseball are there is because they can hit a curveball,
Yeah.
you know, and sometimes we get hit with curveballs. And I think that's what separates some agents from others is that, and I always use my sports references, right?
No,
But it's
yeah,
because
me too.
like when those curveballs hit, you set yourself up so that you're prepared.
Right.
Like a curveball hits you just like everybody else. It affects you. It like shocks us up. It shook us up, but we gather ourselves and then we
Mhm.
go and we make the improvements that we got to do.
Mhm. And with
Um,
experience, now we know to expect the curveballs coming.
and you know what? The best thing that's happened is I don't get too high anymore and I don't get too low.
Yeah.
Like if I have a bad week, I'm like, suck, dude. Like I didn't want to have a bad week, but it happened.
Mhm.
When I have like a really amazing week, I tell myself, you know what?
Keep it
This is,
going.
yep. I'll share a story. Like my haircut. I cut my
All
hair
right.
every week
Oh yeah.
religiously.
Me
Yeah.
too, man.
Like since I was in high school,
Me too.
I've missed a few, obviously. It's been 20 something years,
Every
25 years.
every Sunday or no?
Oh no, I do like Thursdays or Fridays.
Oh, really? Okay. I do
My
Sundays.
buddies call it haircut Friday. I have a barber that's like 35 miles from me, and I go to him. Like, I'm almost like OCD about my haircut. But
Oh, okay.
the reason though, like now, believe it or not, like people don't understand what the haircut actually represents for me.
Mhm.
Like what I know is when you get the haircut, there's a certain feel, like if a fresh feel, right? Like
Mhm.
it,
You got a sharp hairline there too.
yeah, right.
You're,
You know
you're
what?
lucky
I've been
with that.
blessed. You know what it is? I was born with a very small forehead.
You're blessed.
So like, so even if I lose a little bit, it's just gonna make me look more normal. But the thing is, I tell people haircuts are extremely therapeutic for me. Um, because I feel like it's my restart button.
Mhm.
Like, if I had a bad week or whatever, dude, I am
Mhm.
yearning for that haircut because it's like boom, fresh cut. Like, all right, like let's go on to the next one. You
Right.
know, and mind you, when you have short hair, you kind of have to keep it tight. So it's just one of those things. I think for me is like I find different things to keep my mental either like motivated or strong. Because
Mhm.
being self motivated is a full time job.
Yep.
It's a full time job, and there's days that you're not as motivated as the other day, you know? So that's probably where I'm at today. Like if I would say, what are my biggest challenges, it would be what inspires me now,
Mhm.
like what are my new goals,
Mhm.
right? Like, okay, Mike, you've written 100 life policies 10 years in a row, whatever. Can you do 200, or can you now do 100,000 in commercial, or get back into FFS, or hire another producer? Like the involvement, I see it happening, and I'm happy that I'm conscious about it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I'm not going through the motions trying to just hit these numbers. Instead, I'm growing right now consciously, like, okay, I'm going to give this some thought. It's important for me to keep the culture healthy in my office. So I just can't hire anybody. Do I want to just become a telemarketing office, or do I want to just venture out to do some cold calling, or do I want to use a vendor? So before, I didn't give as much thought to things. I just did them.
Yeah, you were going
You
100
know,
miles. Yeah.
yeah, like this. I don't know what being an agent is going to be, but I'm going to do it.
Right.
I don't know what the 6 and 63 is, but I'm going to take the test.
And that was like the survival mode that got you off to this fast start.
I mean, now my agency, I'm almost at like 6,000 policies. I mean, believe
Nice.
it or not, that's probably not as impressive as it used to be. Like now there's a lot of big agencies, people purchase big agencies. I remember when you and I started, man, you look at 6,000 PIP, we would look at them like that's out of control,
Yeah.
to be here now. And it's like, I'm over here thinking about growing and getting bigger or getting more efficient. Like it really never ends.
But
Like
that's organically without leads, right? So I mean,
yeah,
that's
that's no internet leads or nothing. That's just been 13 years of like blood, sweat, and tears.
yeah. That's
Crazy, huh?
the
Yeah,
profitability there too.
dude,
That's
I tell you, sometimes I don't even know how it happens. Sometimes, like 13 years just kind of feels like a dream, it's like a blurry.
yeah.
It's blurry because I can't even believe this June it'll be 13 years. Like I'm like, dude, I'm gonna be 40 this year. I don't feel 40. Like maybe I'm going through my midlife crisis, which is probably why I started worrying about my health again. I don't know, but I do think though that at least now the nice thing with age is also like a respectability that can come with that,
Hmm.
because I've also now had a ton of life experience,
Hmm.
and you can't put value on life experience. The wisdom, the mentorships, the just the overall like experience, like it's like, I feel like I have a master's MBA in insurance,
Yeah.
you know
The
like
wisdom, the experience.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like put me up against anybody is how I feel now, and any company anywhere. Like
Mhm.
I feel like I have the tools, the team to take myself or to represent anybody,
Hmm.
and I didn't always feel that way. For
Hmm.
a long time I was too busy just producing, instead of like actually working on myself and working on the skill sets that it takes to actually be a top level agent.
Yeah. Well, you had that confidence. It sounds like from day one. So now imagine now how strong you are.
But you know what the funny thing is, back then I didn't know it was confidence. Back
Yeah.
then I didn't know.
It's almost like ignorance, huh?
It's like naive.
Yeah.
You're naive. And I think confidence also comes from doing this as long as we've done it, right?
Yep.
Like you probably are way more comfortable hiring people than I am, but I'm probably a little more comfortable having a life insurance conversation than you are. Who
Oh,
knows, right?
100%.
Or you're probably better at quoting an auto than I am. Like, so like you and I have gotten to similar places just differently. And
Hmm.
that's something that I always tell agents, like, you can't be me,
Hmm.
you can't be Dan, but you can take things that we've done
Hmm.
and apply them and then maybe improve,
Yeah. It
right?
goes back to like competing against yourself.
Yeah.
Instead of competing against somebody else and try to be someone you're not when it doesn't fit your style or fit your strengths and weaknesses.
You and I could switch roles right now and probably our agencies would struggle.
We'll fuck it up.
Yeah, like, like your team would be like, Mike's a really nice guy, Dan, but he doesn't know what he's doing.
uh,
We
your team
would,
would be like, "What happened to the live production?"
no, they'd be like,
Or
Dan,
like,
Dan, why aren't you walking into our office telling stupid jokes? You'd be like, I don't do that. you know,
yeah,
yeah, like my poor team, dude. I'm like the most annoying guy. Like they're in the middle of something. And I'm just like, hey, you want to hear a joke? They're like, no, dude, like go back to your office and leave us alone.
hey, you need that. You need to keep it light sometimes. This business isn't, just doing claims and like, billing and just
You,
all this
you,
stuff. It's just
you,
like
you,
that's a
you know,
skill. I feel like to bring the humor in the office and keep
oh,
it
dude.
light and like bring the camaraderie and a place where people will want to actually come because a lot of jobs aren't like that.
Nah, man. And you know what? That's small business.
Hmm.
That's the difference between a corporate office and us, is
Hmm.
that, look how you're dressed today. Look at me, like Monday through Thursday. Yeah, I'm probably rocking a shirt, a tie or whatever, but it's Friday. It's a little more casual. Today usually becomes one of the days that we just follow up on all the work that we did Monday through Thursday, make sure that everything's done right, and then, call it a day. But going back to like the small business versus like a corporation, we offer something that's very unique. It's not everybody can have what we have, camaraderie or whatnot. Like, it's important, I think, us as agents to also bring that every day,
Yep.
because the agencies feed off of us.
Yep.
Like they're like, we're interconnected. Your agency is just an extension of you.
Exactly. That's
My
why you can't
agency is,
outgrow it. It can't outgrow you.
no, and we have to stay ahead,
Hmm.
and it's like, I don't know, man. Like, I think at this point, like mentoring or stuff like that, like, it's important for me because, I'll give you a funny one. Like, my old boss, my old agent that I worked for, he's my friend on Facebook, and
Hmm.
he's always cracking up because he's like, dude, you make insurance look glamorous. You know, he's like, you're at Laker games, you're at Dodger Stadium opening day, and I'm like, well, that's got nothing to do with my agency, but my my hard work, my my sacrifices, and that's something I
Yeah.
wanted to share with you. Like, you're 40, I think, right? Or 39?
I just turned 41.
Yeah, oh, 41.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah. And I gotta tell you, man, I think there's something to be said about some of these like top agents, and not to like name drop, but like, there's agents still that have been doing this 25 years, but they did it in their 20s, kind of like you and I. you know I'm not saying that we're going to be maybe as good as them, or who knows where insurance goes in the next 10 years, but I think the fact that you and I were willing to sacrifice our mid 20s, and not sacrifice them, but step into like very mature professional roles at a young age,
Hmm.
is paying huge dividends right now.
Yeah.
Because we were so fresh and we were so new, and we were probably so adaptive. Our
Hmm.
brains were probably like sucking it all in, like all the knowledge or whatever. Because I can tell you, man, like, I have a 23-year-old in my office right now.
Hmm.
He's super smart. Um, like Excel, PowerPoint, like, this kid is like a guru, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes, like, I'm like getting stuck on Word. Like, what am I doing here? And he, like, I call him in, and like, it's just like a click. And I'm like, damn, I used to be that guy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
used to be the kid that would ask him hey man, can you fix this? Like, what's going on? Or like, how do you like log on to the internet or whatever? Now I'm the guy that's like, why isn't my computer working? Like, not that I'm becoming an old man fast, but I think at times I can see youth,
Uh-huh.
like, there, you can't compete with youth.
Right.
It's like, it's fresh, it's new, it's untapped. It's like they're like a blank canvas.
Hmm.
And so I've also realized that it's also important for me to have youth around me,
Hmm.
because it'll keep me young as well. Because you know like, I see him motivated. I see him wanting to buy his like first real car, or
Hmm.
like the same things that you and I once aspired to. Like,
Hmm.
I remember when you bought like it was like an M3 or something. Remember, I think you had like a nice Beamer back in the day, and now you have an M5. Not to
Hmm.
like throw it out there, but same thing with me. I remember like my first car was like a BMW like 3 Series, and I was all proud of it. Then like a few years later, I bought a 5 Series. Like, now I drive an FJ Cruiser. It's like, I'm not even driving a Beamer anymore. But I do got to say that, like, um, I'm taking notes.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if there's anybody watching this and probably relating to our experience from, like, because you and I can relate. I think this is why it's so easy for us to do this. Is we started together.
Yep.
We went through everything together, Dan.
Yeah.
We went through everything together. You
Same
and
era.
I, that same era. Um, big decisions have to be made. Your DM gets, she passes away. You become like almost like a free agent. You respected me enough to call me.
Oh yeah, I came to
You
you.
know,
Yeah.
and I appreciated that. And I got to tell you, man, like, from a distance, from a counterpart, like, I think you're doing big things too, man. Like, you just giving me a platform to come out here and talk. It's been a while for me. Kind of, you made me start thinking about a lot of things that I had forgot about. A lot of good memories.
Yeah.
A lot of good memories. um I've got no complaints. Talking about like bleeding, being loyal, like, I'm farmers through and through, man. Like, You'll see me
you,
in
you you
Vegas.
are you are Mr. Farmers.
You know,
In
I rock
SoCal,
farmers.
you,
Yeah,
you are.
I'm rocking farmers gear at Vegas. Like people don't even know.
Yeah.
So, I think that's also important, man. Like you gotta love where you're at.
Hmm.
Like
You have some pride. I want to touch a little bit about what you talked about. Having young people around you, and I get a lot of fulfillment in that too. Because you help them. You can see you're helping them in your life, their
yeah,
life.
yeah.
And that's means a lot. And to sometimes when you're nearer to, they are a little bit more open, or they're a little green, so it's a little bit easier to mold them. And you can kind of
Hmm.
see like, oh, some of these fundamentals I'm teaching them could affect their whole life. And sometimes it's just, and then you see them grow into uh, how their financial situation has changed, not just theirs, but now their families. So it's like the responsibility we have is just like even bigger as when we first started to where we are now. So making a difference in people's life is one of the just it is the best thing about, I think, what we do.
You know what? It's cliche, right? Like some people can watch this and be like, "Oh, they were just hyping up that whole experience." But the truth of the matter is, like when you're really not hyping it up, and it really is a part of like what you like to do, that's part of our secret sauce.
Yeah.
Like people
Yeah.
ask all the time things like, "What's your silver bullet?" Like what's the secret to this? Well, like, can you turn around and become a 26-year-old and go back to how farmers used to be? Like probably not. So I don't know what yours is. I know what mine is.
Hmm.
Like you were talking about how you can inspire people or change their lives. Like my old boss cracked open a window for me and let me see what life could possibly be. Because the thing is, coming from, I grew up in South Central. Then I went to school in Boyle Heights, which is East LA
Hmm.
high school. Then I went to college at Long Beach, and then I bounced around because
Oh yeah,
had
that's right.
I
I went to Long Beach too.
yeah, and then I bounced around because I had too much fun. I don't want to get into details, but I had too much fun in college. Shocker, right? And then I went through a phase where like I was like at 2, 3 different junior colleges. I ended up not going to school for like a year because I needed to make money because I put myself in debt because my parents are low income dudes. So I literally was taking out credit cards just to survive. And I
Uh-huh.
didn't realize the damage I was causing. It's like a very uneducated way to grow up and to like go through. And unfortunately, I didn't have older siblings. I didn't have someone to like, okay, well, they're doing it this way. So maybe I have something to follow since I've always been
Hmm.
the one kind of leading that role.
From an immigrant family too, right?
Yeah, an immigrant family,
Same here.
when my old boss took me in, it turns out it's a small world. Him and I went to the same elementary school. Him and
Okay.
I went to the same middle school. Then we ended up going to rival high schools. And there was such an immediate connection. And he exposed me to just life, like I'll give you a couple stories. Like I remember he took me to Nordstrom's. I never even been inside of Nordstrom's. Took me to Nordstrom's and he bought himself a couple, like he had this guy just show up. Like, Nordstrom's has those people, they help you pick out your clothes. They already knew him. Oh, hey, Jose, how's it coming? They got a couple shirts, some slacks, and he just walks out. And then like I look at the tag and it's like $100 for these slacks, like $120 for this shirt. I was like, dude, I'm over here shopping at Marshalls and Ross, like trying to find a green shirt with a green tie. And that's as real as I could like share a story. And I remember he told me, like, you know what? Brought me back, bought me a couple shirts and a couple slacks. He goes, there's no
Damn.
reason why you shouldn't be dry cleaning this, keeping this looking sharp. You should always look sharp. And no one had ever done anything like that for me,
Hmm.
you know? Um, so, you know, I take someone like Stephen Lee, that guy gives to everybody,
Hmm.
one of the most humble, successful agents you'll ever meet, right? People always can't believe how close of friends we are, yet they have no idea him and I talk almost every day, right? It's like almost like a 15, 16-year age gap. He's Chinese. I'm from El Salvador. Like culture differences couldn't be more different, yet we're so similar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the mentorship, this guy has taught me everything about wine. Like a guy like me would have never in a million years thought I'd know anything about wine. And here I am spending $200-300 on a nice dinner with a nice bottle of wine. I would have never done that. Like, so those are the kind of things that when it comes to like college kids in my fraternity or even some high school kids, um, then I think about even like my brother, who's a farmer's agent now, who worked with me for 9 years,
Oh
and
yeah,
and
of
then
course, yeah, yeah.
yeah, like then I have JP, my producer, and I want to give him all of it. Like
Hmm.
I have all this knowledge, I have all this experience, obviously not all at once, but I feel like I just have so much of it to like I don't even need it in the sense that I've already used it, I already have it. Like why not, feel like how maybe my old boss feels when he sees me now, right? Like, oh,
Hmm.
Mike's done well, considering he pulled me out of being a teller at a bank, and
Yeah,
here I am now having a conversation with you, you know? So like
that's making him proud, and that's the sense of feel, that's what you're gonna get eventually too. You know.
whether I get it or not, I don't think it's like the end goal,
Hmm.
but I do feel like there's nothing wrong with being a good person, man. Like
Yeah.
I feel like, sometimes kindness gets taken for weakness. I think being a good dude sometimes people try to take advantage or like, it's like I have to constantly balance that. Like can't be too giving, got to be a little selfish. Like, it's just one of those things where like it's a constant balancing act for myself. Like you can't overextend yourself and give too much either,
Hmm.
because some people just take.
Hmm.
There's people out there or companies or people like organizations that they'll just take and take and take. And, if you're not careful, they'll leave you with nothing,
Hmm.
you know? So someone like yourself, there's a lot of you, there's a demand on your time. I'm sure you're pulled in a lot of different directions too. And then those are the things that we balance now,
Hmm.
right? Like time management, production. What are we doing with ourselves?
Hmm.
So I think I can, I think some of the beauty of my career is that I can still relate to the 3 month agent. As a matter of fact, I actually like talking to them the most
Hmm.
because I loved that part of my career so much,
Hmm.
right? But I can also talk to a 10-year agent who wants to take their agency to another level. So I think in that sense, you and I have both become a little versatile, right?
Yeah. Yes,
And and
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
and that's come from the experience that
Yeah.
we've created over the last 10, 13 years.
Yeah. Man, so inspirational, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
We got to talk about Embrace though,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm
I'm
excited
glad
to
you brought it
be.
up.
I'm excited to be part of it for the first time.
Mhm.
But to be honest with you, even though I'm part of it, I'm not. And we're gonna have meetings so I can be more up to date on what it's all about and what we're trying to do and how we're gonna help other agents. So share us with that. What is it all about and
Well,
about
you
the
know what?
conference too.
I didn't create Embrace. I was Embrace happened, and I asked if I could be a part of it
Hmm.
when this, because I liked the idea of um, Latinos helping Latinos, because culturally there are certain struggles that you only understand because of certain cultures, right? Like
Hmm.
me ensuring people that are my parents' age, I can relate to it, I can understand it. And because of my culture, I also understand what's important to them, what's not important to them. Um, Farmers used to have the multicultural department, and it was very influential and critical in my career during that time to have assistants and also see people like myself doing what I'm doing, right? You and
Hmm.
I are two products of immigrant parents, right? And we have had to climb different obstacles to get to where we're at, and at times that gets lost in the game, right? People just see, oh, success or congratulations, but there's a journey to get here. And the thing is now there are so many different clients that are maybe Chinese speaking only or Spanish speaking that are very good clients that are not getting the attention, the respect that they deserve. And I think something that Embrace um, it's important because we've added a little twist to it since it originally was created, but is that, how important it is to have a bilingual person in your office. It doesn't matter what ethnicity you are, right? Like I would love a Chinese speaking person in my office. Like it opens up an entirely new avenue of clientele that I might have not been able to insure before, right? And also sometimes it's just an additional benefit to an agency because the more you have to offer, the more opportunities you're going to have. So I think Embrace is a little sprinkles of all of that, talk about immigrant stories. But not only that, like, it doesn't matter what ethnicity you are. How can you not relate to a journey? I don't care what you are. Everyone's had a journey.
Hmm.
Just because you grew up in Orange County doesn't mean you didn't have some struggle. Just because you grew up in San Francisco doesn't mean you didn't have a struggle, or Texas or whatever. So um, having we called it the Asian panel. It was important because some of my closest friends, believe it or not, are top producing Asian agents, and some of them don't speak English as fluently as I do, yet have had tremendous amounts of success. There's Latino agents that English is like their second language, and maybe don't pronounce things as properly as I do, or didn't go to school and get educated, but yet have these tremendous agencies. you know um and I think Embrace is an amazing conference, and it has an amazing like agenda, because what we're trying to do is show that there really shouldn't be limitations to where we can get, you know
Yeah.
um and that'll get to me to get like all inspiration about it. But it's why I fell in love with Embrace.
Yeah.
I liked that. It's important to show the what's behind the curtain,
Right.
right? Everybody in my office is bilingual. I'm sorry, dude, let me do that again. Hold on. Basically what that means, Dan, is that we've been talking a lot. My lights keep going off, you know
Three
but
times.
yeah. But I think for me, like someone like Steven, originally who we wanted to have, was a couple of other top agents like Richard, uh, I think Diane, and because I know them so well.
Hmm.
Like Steven's a shy guy. He'll share things with me, but he's
I
very, very shy.
I asked him to be on this too.
Yeah. And I feel like if I can talk to him, he can share his story. He can share
So valuable.
yeah, like his journey,
Mhm.
because Steven, I mean, he's tremendous. 13, 14-time PC agent, at one time I think had 10,000 policies. And this is when you and I were coming up.
Yeah.
That's
No,
who he
legend.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, Richard Soul, you probably one of your role models, like
Mhm.
killing it in auto production for before you and I were even agents. You and I were high school, these guys were dominating.
Yeah.
So I felt like, as a Latino, but also as a friend of theirs, since I understand similarities in our cultures,
Hmm.
I felt like we can bring and showcase this.
So
You
were
know,
you kind of the one that brought the two cultures together?
not necessarily just me, Dennis, and a few other people. This was like a group idea, but
Okay.
the idea behind it is what I'm trying to say. Like that was
Right.
the concept, is like, because some of the top agents in our company are Asian, and yet they don't really speak. And maybe if there's a language barrier or a comfortability or whatever, it's important that we created an environment where somebody felt comfortable enough to say, okay, you know what, this is kind of what my agency does.
Hmm.
And in an age, like, because you're Japanese, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so like maybe you have a Japanese speaking agent, producer, or you can speak Japanese, because like Daiju, he's on the committee,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
he's Japanese.
Hmm.
And he told me something about like he visits like sushi bars, and his mom I think owned the restaurant, and like that's how he does some of his marketing, and that was like mind blowing to me. Like that makes so much sense,
Hmm.
and you relate. And then
Yeah.
there's like a cultural connection there, right? So anybody can implement those kind of things into their agency. It doesn't matter who you are,
Yeah.
but sometimes I feel like it's an untapped market.
Yeah. And it's a little overlooked, um, because man, in the minority community, Farmers has a great reputation.
They you know how proud some people are. Like I remember, I forget what client it was. Um, he was just like, oh, I'm with Farmers. Like I was at a family party.
Hmm.
He's like telling everybody, I'm with Farmers. There's a sense of pride, and
Yeah.
you know why? Our culture, I would say the Latino culture, in so many ways has been taken advantage of in the insurance world,
Mm.
and I've seen it for so long.
Broker fees.
It's all of it, terrible coverages, broker fees. I had this client once who was paying for insurance through a broker, and the guy didn't even have active policies. This broker was just taking his money. I I literally tried to call his broker's office because I'm like, I don't think you have insurance. This guy hadn't had insurance in over a year. Like that stuff's out there, man.
Yeah.
There's brokers and stuff like that are just taking advantage of um, the fact that some of these people have never had a conversation with someone like you and I, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because I've sat in front of people and price wise, it's like I'm not going to compete with that, but your person, it's not even in your living room. I am,
Mm-hmm.
I drove 30 miles to be here because you're my friend's parents. And, if something were to happen, I know that you're going to call my cell and I'm going to see you at a family party. So I need to protect you properly. It's not whether you want to or not, is I have to. And you can afford it, like you're talking about a $10-15 difference. Like, listen, you have a direct TV box. There's a PlayStation 5 here. Like, don't tell me that you don't have an extra $8 or $9, but I'm at a place in my career where I can have that conversation,
Yeah, that's
you know,
strong.
and that's stuff you can't teach, man.
Right.
That's the grind. That's from going to
Hard.
1,000 appointments over the last few years, right?
Yeah.
So Embrace, I think, is gonna have that. I mean, there's a cost to it because it's costing money to put this thing together. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like the agents are making any profit from it. I'm not getting profit from it. You're not getting profit. We're donating our time,
Mm-hmm.
as a matter of fact. But just like I like to give to different organizations, mostly like my high school and to those kids and to my fraternity or whatever. I feel like Embrace can reach out to the right people, like the right agents can take a lot from this because you know it's a different culture now. Agents aren't developed really at their district offices like it once was. I
Yeah,
remember
that's
when
true.
I was an agent, there was like another like 7 reserves and careers, and we all used to hang
Mm-hmm.
out. And then before
It's,
then, I hear I hear the OGs, like the agents that have been doing what I've been doing for 20 something years in my district, and those are the best times they ever had. Like, oh man, we
mm-hmm.
used to hang out and cold call together.
Mm-hmm.
That since that culture has changed, I feel like now it's got to come in through people like us, but now through digital, you know, like
Yeah.
because it's important to not lose that farmers culture because it's ultimately what separates us from everybody else.
Yeah.
You
Learn
know,
from each other.
learn from each other, give. I
Yep.
mean, you've been a PC, you know how nice it is. Like the best of the best are just giving you stuff. It's almost like, okay, like I thank you, like thank you,
Yeah.
like
You
you
can't
guys
even
any more of
handle.
that?
You can't
Hey,
even handle all the stuff to do.
you got any more of that is sure, you know what I mean? Like it's one of those things. So why not give back, Dan?
Yeah.
Like
No.
it's gonna be important for us to promote it. Um, I'm gonna be doing things online. I'm gonna ask you to do the same thing because you and I are gonna be in the same panel. It was also important why I didn't want to just get into everything on the podcast because then there's gonna be other things that we're gonna talk about at Embrace.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm
No,
excited about it, man, and I hope people really, check in and do it with us because we're putting a lot of effort into it.
mm,
Genuine, kind effort that none of us have to do this. We're doing it strictly for the culture. And I feel like agents can get a lot out of it.
yeah, for sure. Man, I'm so proud to be part of it. Like,
Yeah, I'm
thank.
I'm excited to have you, man, because you know what? You don't talk about yourself at all really on these things, but people don't know that you've been doing this from day one. I remember when you and I and Ty would like hang out, right? And then you guys were like literally telling me your numbers, and I was like, "Say what? You 100 policies a month, 200, 300?" I remember this is like 2010, right?
Yeah.
I remember thinking to myself like, "You guys are out of control. Like, I can't even go to that many people's homes." But we were building things differently.
Yeah.
You had learned those skills at AAA, right?
Yeah. It's a
I
call center.
I had learned my one-to-one appointment setting at State Farm, and
Mhm.
yet we were all at the same party,
Yep.
and it's been a ride, bro. Like, you know that you can always count on me, and I'm sure I can always call you. Um,
For sure, man.
and I look forward to us doing this for a long time together,
Yeah.
because at this point we're growing old together. You know what I mean?
I know we're like brothers.
we're like growing old because there's not too many of us that started together at that time that are still doing it like this. Like, I mean, I
Not
could
just
think of
still
a
doing
few.
it, but still growing.
Yeah, like Andy, you and
Hmm.
I, and you and him were in the same district. I mean,
Hmm.
I remember when Andy and I became buddies like 10 years ago, like I was just like, dude, you're a monster, you know,
Oh, you
like
changed his life insurance production.
yeah, I mean, he's helped me with my fire insurance production,
Yeah.
you know. So I mean, I think all of us have influenced each other a little bit, you
Hmm.
know. Like I mean, like I think about people like Kirk Miller and like Fadi and Julie, like the originals, right? Like those people that started, like Stephen Tagenhorst. Like I miss, I obviously COVID. I haven't seen a lot of us, so I obviously miss the interaction. But I do miss the local, like divisional things,
Hmm.
because you know, sharing things nationally or state, we're all going through different things. You know, Texas is different than California. California is different than, you know, I don't know, like I don't
I
know,
got Florida.
Nevada, whatever, you know. But when you're from like SoCal, you know, we all have very similar things going on, you know,
Hmm.
because similar climate, similar rates, similar clientele. So, you know, I mean, it'd be nice for, I think, once COVID opens up and goes away a little bit, I hope, you know, that we can bring some of that back,
Hmm.
because those are the things that continue to motivate and inspire me. Sometimes when these new agents are talking to me, they don't even realize that they think I'm motivating them. I'm stealing all
Yep.
that energy, all that goodness that they're bringing, because it just, oh, you know, I just know, like, hey man, listen, you think I've done well? Like, I kind of wish I had some of your energy,
Hmm.
you
And
know.
sometimes when you help them out and you tell them stuff, you're like telling yourself the same thing, and you're like, "Oh man, like you're like also like mentoring yourself almost. You're helping yourself out by helping other
You
someone
know
else."
what we're doing is we're talking to our ego,
Hmm.
and then, you know, like our ego is our best friend and our worst friend at the same time, right?
Hmm.
So like for me, it's important that, like, I don't let that part of me get distracted
Right.
with whether it's income or doing things for the wrong reasons. Because, you know, I think a lot of people can do insurance, but not everybody's doing it for the right reasons. So, you know, you bring some humility and some authenticity into what we do, and be yourself, and not just be yourself, but be the best version of yourself. And now you'd be shocked with, you know, what can come out of that, you know, just simply by doing what's best for the other party.
Hmm.
Because, you know, how many times have we sat in front of a client and know that, you know, we could probably take this in a different direction, and it might not necessarily be best for the client, but you could, because there's so much trust between the two parties, you know. And that's where I feel like that's where karma and everything plays a big role, man. Like, you do right by others and things, good things will happen to you,
Yeah,
you
and
know?
that's playing the long game. You know,
Yeah, exactly, the long
you know,
game, you know.
playing the long game. If you think long term, then doing the right thing always works out better.
Yeah, and a lot of times I think agents have so much pressure now. Like they inherit an agency or they buy an agency, and there's so much pressure to hit production, you know. Like, I think you and I had the beauty of being able to, like, crawl,
Yeah,
walk, run, right?
go at our own pace.
Reserve agent to
Hmm.
career agent to whatever it may
Hmm.
be, you know. And that's not really the case anymore. Like, you know, the agent that Farmers is recruiting and is coming into the company now, very different than you and I. You know, we were like young guys
No
looking
capital.
for no capital. Some of these people coming in, you know, buying big agencies or creating the retail. I mean, I don't know much about how it works anymore, because it's just not what I care about or do. But I just know that, you know, that's why, you know, when I see my counterparts, when I see people that I've been doing this with a long time, there's like a certain sense of nostalgia there,
Hmm.
because you relate,
Yep.
right? Like,
Yeah.
we relate, and not everybody understands my journey. Like, when people say scratch agent, some people don't even know what that means anymore, you know. Or
Yeah.
like I was telling you, like 5,000 PIF, you know, like it can take somebody 5 years now to get here. Like, people have no idea the journey, the
Yeah.
amount of policies that you've lost, the headaches, the, like, literally blood, sweat, and tears. You know, changing
Yeah.
flat tires on my way to San Bernardino to go to an appointment. You know, like you know, I don't take anything for granted. Dan, I don't take anything for granted. Like, I'm just, like, just so freaking blessed with, like everything that I have, and, like, you know, going back to the embrace, like, that's what you're gonna get right there.
Hmm.
Like, you know, that's like a Gary V moment. Boom. So you want to come on the conference, you want to cry a little bit with us, you know, like, get your staff on there, because staff honestly is so underrated. You and I barely talked about staff today.
Hmm.
um you and I know that's that's the game changer,
It
the team.
is.
You can be great, I could be great, but you and I by ourselves suck. So you know, team building, camaraderie, all that stuff, man. All that stuff is stuff we're gonna talk about. We're gonna have the best agents
The
doing
incredible
this.
lineup.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you talk about all-star lineup, agents of the year, life agents of the year, foremost agents of the year, Tyler Levy Award winners, right? You're gonna have the one and only Dan Kitajima. You know what I mean? Like people don't even know. People don't even know. So um I think at this point I'm just like pumped up about it,
Yeah.
So I'm glad we did this. I hope we can share this too, right? I don't know if we can share this like on like the farmers pages where the Facebook or even like the Instagram page or even like YouTube, because I think this will be a good video for us to share also, to maybe also get
Bring
people,
awareness.
bring
Yeah.
awareness. We actually shared a lot of good information.
Yeah, no,
Share.
definitely. Yeah, well, this will be shared on YouTube, my YouTube, but I'll give you a copy too. Maybe we'll chop up some parts where we talked about the embrace
Yeah,
parts.
yeah.
But yeah, we definitely want to be part of the, uh, part of the, what do you call it?
The committee, the
The
experience,
committee, but I want to participate in promoting it, and do my part of like, getting it out there so we can
yeah.
have
I
more
mean,
people to talk to.
bro, we got, you're personal lines agent of the year for a reason. Like I saw, the thing is, like, I tell people, and I like bragging about it. Like, I've been knowing about Dan. You guys know about Dan now. I know about Dan. I bought stock in Dan early.
I
you know
remember, I remember we were at a bar at like at Masters or something like that, and someone was like, didn't know about me, and you like went off on them. I
I
was like, you
did.
didn't have to do that, dude. Poor
I was
guy.
like,
He didn't know me. It's okay.
I took it up personal. How, like, what you mean you don't know who Dan Kitajima is? Hey, you better go look him up in the newspaper or something.
I was like, well, it's okay.
Like, tone it down, right? Tone it down.
Yeah.
Oh man, I
But
remember
you've
that.
always had my back though. You've
I,
been
re-
a supporter.
I remember that. I remember that. I remember too. I remember when they were doing agency marketing had the reimbursement. Remember? And I was like, look, Dan, you can go to schools and this and that and submit this for reimbursement. Like if you donate,
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
you were like, are you telling me I can get $500 back? You're like, lunch is on me, Mike.
Oh yeah, that's when you spoke after Darla. Rest in peace. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Darla, it was
Uh-huh.
you, Darla,
Andy.
Melissa, Andy,
Yeah.
and then you were like,
You just gave me $6,000 right there.
you're like, did you just give me $6,500 a month? I was
You
like,
just
I've been doing it for years. Like, what?
you just
Uh,
it's like I wrote like a $60,000 policy on the spot right there.
dude, honestly, when I first found out about it, it was like a random agent at a random event,
Hmm.
and I was like, come again? They're
Hmm.
like, oh, just because there's so many different things, right? Like from vendors, like you go to agency marketing, right? Like there's a lot of things that we can do.
Hmm.
But unless you meet someone, or it's hard, like, it's hard to know everything.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to go to Reno, go to the agent conference,
Hmm.
California, right? It's why it's so important to when we had Paula, to go to Paula. If you're not investing in yourself or like doing things, this is why you don't know things,
Hmm.
right? Like the best information, pointers, everything have always been at some kind of agent conference or meeting.
Hmm.
It's why I love them.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
so much information that people take for granted.
Yeah, and to
People
be
take for
honest with you,
granted.
I think I was one of them. I think just my personality was like a little bit more introverted. So early on in my career, I didn't like putting myself out there and talking about growth. This is doing something like this 10 years ago. I would have been like, "There's no way I could do that." But that moment when I talked to you, and I was like, "Oh, I should go back to lunch, but I want to talk to Mike, so I'm gonna take a break and talk." And then that was like an early experience for me to understand like, wow, getting to know other agents and talking to them and engaging with them is so
Yeah.
beneficial.
And we
So I
talked about
appreciate it. I
you
appreciate
and
you.
yeah, you and I talked about it. And remember I told you, I said, Dan, I just don't see you enough,
Yeah.
because I get it though, because you also remind me of some of my other farmer friends that are like slightly introverted, and it's exactly what Embrace will talk about.
Okay.
Like you, for example, like almost 10 years almost of writing that kind of production, right? And then still somebody sitting next to us, no clue, no idea, right? Like,
Mhm.
what? Like, come on, man. Like what's going on here, right? But then again, I'm also probably like overexposed, right? Like people are probably tired of hearing me talk, or I went like on these touring, like speaking tours at one point, and I'm sure my story or whatever gets old. So it's important to have a new voice, a new person. But since I'm friends with a lot of people, it's like, well, come on, And then me doing it also, I'm sure brings a little comfort and comfortability, especially when you can be introverted. Because as introverted as you are, I'm probably as extroverted,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But I think your story and is evolving. So I think it's great to keep hearing from you, and to see what you're up to now, and where your perspective is now. Because, like you said, like when that during that meeting when you talked about life insurance and how you got to write the small stuff first to like graduate to writing bigger stuff, I that was important at that time, and what you're sharing with us now is a whole nother level of importance. So keep sharing, Mike. I really appreciate you being on here. Literally my laptop is about to run out of battery here.
I told you I could talk. I warned you. I said, you know
No,
what?
man.
This is gonna run over. We're gonna do some bunch of editing on this one.
No, and there's gonna have to be a part two, because
You want to do a part two?
yeah.
We can also do some other stuff outside of insurance. There's a lot of things that we can talk about.
Mhm.
Um, but I look forward to it, man. I mean, we'll keep in touch. Let me know how this turns out. And then
This is gonna be great, dude.
you need anything from me, bro,
You
I'm a
killed it.
phone call away.
No, thank you, Big Mike. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Let me know if you need anything from me too. But embrace this. I'm looking forward to killing it with you.
Yeah,
So
you know what? And if we can, the sooner we can probably put something together, let me know, because it'd be nice to get this out, you
yeah.
know, because the company, the agents, I feel like there might be a lot of misinformation, misunderstanding about what we're trying to do. And it's important that people realize that this is all coming from a good place. This is a good cause. Like, agents have to invest in themselves if they want to get better. Like, honestly, there's a lot of people that do what I do and
Hmm.
charge for this kind of information, charge for these stories, you know, uh, leadership conferences. This stuff ain't free, and Farmers is getting some of their best agents to do this stuff, and everybody's doing it out of the kindness of their own heart. I don't see why you wouldn't want to like experience that or want to be a part of it, you
Yeah.
know? So just let me know. We'll be in touch,
Hmm.
and we'll go from there.
All right. Sounds good, Big Mike.
All right, brother. We'll
I'll
be in
see.
touch.
I'll see you soon, man. See ya.
All right, man.
Thanks.